Hello guys, our episode for today will be about HTML tables, and we will try all the tags that is under HTML tables. First, before you create your HTML tables, you need to remember the first step, which is you need to count the number of rows and columns in the table. Second is the location of column headings. And third is the placement of your table caption. So if you already know these three steps, you can now proceed in creating your table. So using the table, you need to use the table tag, and with each table, if you want to specify the row, that is tr, and then if you want to specify the columns, so that is td, right? So this is an example of how your table will look like. So you have the table, you have the tr, so this will be your first row, and then this will be your second row. And then for the first row, this is your first column, second column, and then this will be included on the first column and the second column. So this will be like this. So you have two rows and two columns. Okay, so if we want to add a header for each column, so we need to create another row with two th and add the text. So we will do it something like this. tr, we have our column 1, which is, then next would be for our column 2. Forgot. Alright, so like that. So next, for our topic, we'll be creating our table caption. So this is our syntax. So you have caption, then you can use the align attribute so that it will indicate the placement of the caption, and then on the center part will be your text. So where do you put this caption? So you can put it below the table border. Set it here, caption, closing caption. Then you have your align. So let's set it to center. Then we have here example, right? So this is our caption. So it's better to use caption instead of using a paragraph, because if you're gonna use a paragraph has this border around it that will make it far away from the table. So if you're going to use the caption, it will be close enough to the table. So it will remove that border and the padding around the table. So next, we'll talk about cell spacing. So what is a cell spacing? It is an attribute controls the amount of space inserted between table cells. So this is our syntax. So you're going to put it on the table part. The value will be indicated by pixel. So that will be the space between table cells. So it will look like this. So if you have 1 megapixel, no, not megapixel, 1 pixel, it will look like this. This is 5 and this is 10, right? So let us use that table spacing, cell spacing. Let's set it to 5. So as you can see, there's a space between the cell, the table cell, right? So that is cell spacing. Next will be about cell padding. So cell padding, it is to control the space between the table text and the cell borders. The syntax will be this one, cell padding. Then you have the value. Okay, it will look like this, right? So cell spacing is between this outer line of the table and the cell. And when we say cell padding, that is inside the cell and a content. So let's try using cell padding. Alright, so as you can see, there was a change on our cell, so it's a bit far from the edges of this cell to the content or the text inside. Okay, so if we will try to make it bigger so that we can see the difference. Okay, so something like this. Alright, next we have frames and rules attributes. So frames and rules, the frame attributes allows you to determine which side of the table will have border. So for the frame, we have types, which is, we have 7 types. So we have box, above, below, each sides, LHS, RHS, V sides, and void. So each of it, this will be the output. So we have actually 8. So this is the box, the default. Above, below, H sides, horizontal sides. Okay, we have the LHS, or the left hand side. We have the right hand side, and we have the V sides, okay, vertical sides, and we have the void. Right? Frames, frame, then void. Alright, so as you notice, you don't have the outer box of the table. You only have the cell. Okay, next we have the rules. The rules attribute lets you control how the table grid lines are drawn. So you have 4 types. You have all, rows, calls, and none. So these are all the sample outputs. So this talks about the lines inside the table. Okay, so as you can see, rows, it's by row. Rules, it's by columns. Okay, calls, and you have none. Okay, so let's try one. So let's try rules. Let's try rows. Okay, so you only have the rows. Okay, how about if we put it inside the TR, not on the table? Will it work? So that's the question there. Okay, so let's try to put it here on our first row. Okay, so as you can see, we have the same output for the frame void. So it didn't work there. How about you put it inside the cell? Okay, so it didn't work. So you can only use it if you put it inside the table. Okay, so next we have the cell size. Okay, so determining the table size. So this is the syntax. You have the width and the height. So it's just as what it is. So it's the width of the table. Okay, height, it's the height. put height. Let's put it around 150. Okay, so this is an example of 150 height. Let's make it more bigger. So this is 300 height. So now let's set it to a width of same value, 300. So this is the 300 height. To set the width of an individual cell, you can add the width attribute to either the TD or the TH. Okay, so you can use the width. So let's try having that example. Okay, so we use width. Let's remove the width here, and then let's put it on our TH. And we put width, let's say 100. Alright, so it's the most likely the whole column. Okay, so other cells would need to adjust as well. How about you put it on the second here? Right, so this is 300. Okay, so all of the cell within this column adjusted to its width. Aligning a table with the surrounding text, you can use the align attribute as follows. So alignment, left, right, or center. Okay, you can also use images of the align. Okay, so this is an example output of the align and v-align. So you have align left, align center, and align right. You can also use v-align top, v-align middle, and v-align bottom. Okay, let's try one of each. Alright, how about we put it here on our TD? Okay, so how about on the TR? We put it on the TR. All of that cell on that TR will be on the right side. If you put it on the cell, only that cell will be on the right side. If you put it on the table will be on the right side. Okay, so let's try v-align is equal to top, and this time I put it on the third row. Right, so it actually works. So next, let's put it on the cell itself. Okay, next we have spanning of rows and columns. So for this topic, it's a bit confusing because there's a lot of things that you need to remember and you need to keep in mind. So to merge several cells into one, you need to create a spanning cell. So a spanning cell is a cell that occupies more than one row or columns in a table. So a spanning cell, it's an empty cell that you just need to put if you're going to merge either on the row or in the column. So spanning cells are created by inserting the row span and the col span. So this will be our attribute. So you can put it on the TD or TH. Okay, so the value of row span and col span will be the number of row or column that it will occupy. Okay, so I just need to make sure that I don't have any other attributes in my table. So our table for now will be like this. So now let's try to use row span. Okay, my tip for this one, if you're going to span the row will be the column. Okay, so you're combining, what I mean is that you're combining two rows, which is, for example, this row and this row. Okay, so that's why I said column. because this is the column 1. If you're going to span on the column, you're like spanning the row. So this one and this one. So the involved is this row. Okay? So you'll get what I mean. So, column 1, I want it to span on the first cell, this one. Let's try row span is equal to 2. It means that I'm spanning 2 cells. Okay, let's see the output. Okay, it span on this cell. Okay, but as you can see, the first cell, this cell, moved to the right, including the second cell. Okay, so that is what you call the spanning cell. You need to remove one cell on the other row just for it to occupy the span that you did. So what you need to do is you need to remove this one. Let me just remove this. Okay, so something like this, right? So as you can see, the table now is okay. So now let's try to span the third cell and the fourth cell. Okay, so you need to put it on the third cell. So that is called span. And how many span do I need to do? 2. Alright. Okay, so let's try now. Alright. So as you can see, it span on the space of the fourth cell. But the fourth cell is still there. So it moved to the right. So now, what you need to do is, you can remove this cell. Right? Remove that cell. So it will look like this. Okay? Here, it's span. It's not merging. Okay? Because when we say merge, you're combining 2 cells. Right? Same with Excel. So here, we are spanning the cell. So if you have a cell that is on the way, so you need to remove that because it will disarrange your table, right? Okay. So when a cell spans several rows or columns, it is important to adjust the number of cell tags used in the table row. So when a cell spans several rows, the row below the spanning cell must also be adjusted. Okay, so this cell spans 2 columns and 2 rows. Okay, so 1, 2 rows, 2 columns, and then 2 rows. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can see the line here. Okay, so this line occupies this cell, and then you have the line here. So this is supposed to be another column. So it occupies the entire cell for this column. Okay. So applying a background color for the tables, you can use background color, BG color, for the TR and TD, TH, and also the table. So every tag under table, you can use BG color. You also have border color. You can also add a background image to your table using the background attribute. So the background can be applied to the entire table. Okay, so like this. So in this example, the background is on the table itself. So it occupies all the cell. If it's on the TR, it's all on this row. And if it's on the TD, it is on that specific cell only. Okay. Alright. So for tables, that's all. I hope you enjoy, you learn something about tables.